I don't read manga at all, but I want to. The problem is, the thought of staring at speech bubbles for hours for entertainment sounds miserable. But over the lifespan of this channel, I've come to realize that I'm kinda just a massive hater, and I should really give more things a fair try before I start mercilessly making fun of them. So, to cure my ignorance, I consulted the Holy Manga Scriptures, also known as my anime list, and for what felt like days, I searched for the perfect stories to use as my gateway drugs. The reason it took so long was because I was looking for three things. 1. The manga had to have less than 100 chapters out. I was gonna finish them no matter what. Even if 10 chapters in, I felt like smashing my monitor, I'd keep reading and give them a shot at winning me over. 2. I couldn't just cherry pick manga everyone already says is good. I had to stay away from titles I'd heard of before and actually take a chance on something being complete ass. And 3, it had to have a cool cover for the thumbnail. Don't judge me. After reading each manga, I'm gonna give it a rating. Something simple. Yellow means that the manga is worth reading, but only if the description sounded interesting. Green means that even if I fail at selling how good it was, I would 100% recommend at least giving it a try and forming your own opinion. And red means that it's a stinky pile of shit that should be erased from history. With those rules, I eventually picked out 5 manga. This is what I found.
Somewhere in the endlessly vast darkness called space. What is that noise?
This is our main character. Dai Dark is about Sanko, a boy cursed with magic bones. It's well known around the galaxy that if anyone can get their hands on the poor kid's corpse, then any wish they have will come true. You can probably see how this is a problem. Every alien that Sanko meets is eager to rip his flesh off and leave him with no bones. Little do they know that he's no pussy. There's a reason he's been able to survive having the entire universe on his ass for so long. Pause. Wearing armor that protects him from bullets and stab wounds, and having a fire-breathing skeleton as his best friend, Sanko sets off on a mission to find the person responsible for starting the rumor about his bones and beat the dog shit out of him. The plot's pretty simple. However, what isn't simple at all is the world it takes place in. The only way I can think of describing it is a bunch of space crack dens, which makes a lot more sense when I realized that the author's the same lady behind Dorohedoro. She has this way of taking these grimy, ultra-violent settings and then making each character in them incredibly likable. You'd think with a cover like this that the manga would be an edge fest, but somehow it really isn't. Dai Dark's biggest strength, and also one of its weaknesses, is the fact that it relies on you to start vibing out with the main cast and to be genuinely curious about the world around them. I wanted to see all the weird technology, the magic, the architecture. Like I loved in one chapter when they went to a space mall that explodes if anyone tries to steal anything, and then decided, fuck it, let's rob the place. Dai Dark isn't a manga for people who need to have everything explained to them. It doesn't even take itself seriously half the time. They go to a place called Dark, the world of darkness. Sanko walks around wearing a skin of darkness while carrying a package of darkness and killing people with his bone of darkness. It's so stupid that if you manage to get into it, it's actually a really fun time. Each character feels alive. Not only do they have their own defined personalities, but they also have unique powers, relationships with each other, and transformations. Sanko goes from this goofy looking kid to the badass dude on the cover. Death itself transforms from this to now let me tell you about death. Shit. All of this takes place alongside a universe getting its resources drained by crazy religious aliens who will kill and enslave anyone they feel like. They look oddly familiar. Blood gets spilled so often that everyone's just numb to it. It's this contrast of a fucked up, horrific world combined with the fun, carefree main cast that makes the manga addicting. But I'm giving it a yellow. While I don't regret reading it, it's definitely not for everyone. You really have to be able to just turn your brain off and go with the flow of things to fully appreciate it. An endless white void with a door numbered 430. That's what Alice wakes up to. As she reaches out to open it,
Welcome to my manor.
the creature informs Alice that it alone owns the entire void, which functions as a hotel for over 400 people. Residents of the void will have any of their wishes granted as long as they stay in their rooms. The serpent insists that she patiently waits until the hotel reaches 666 guests, as that's when something he calls the party starts. Alice, seemingly unimpressed by being able to live out her fantasies in the strange room, tells him that she plans on leaving the void and returning back to the real world. The serpent, who's furious, confidently explains that while there technically is a way to leave his hotel, it's pretty much impossible. To escape the void, Alice has to travel through all 430 currently booked rooms and find room 0, the exit. Problem is that the further a person gets from their assigned room, the more their body starts to rot. But for some reason, this doesn't discourage Alice whatsoever, who flings open the first door and starts her long walk towards freedom. The main reason why I like Bibliomania is its atmosphere. Each room that Alice enters is a reflection of its owner's desires. From a guy who got bullied so viciously that the only thing he wants is to watch his abuser get decapitated over and over, to a Twitch mod living out his fantasies as a superhero, who fights monsters which are actually just manifestations of the reality checks that his family would give him. In essence, the void is just hundreds of rooms of different people living in their own personalized forms of escapism. I think the rotting symbolizes something like the anxiety associated with leaving your comfort zone and trying to fix your problems instead of ignoring them, but it's probably not that deep. Bibliomania is green. The manga's only 12 chapters long, so you could easily knock it out in only a couple hours, and it's worth checking out just for its art alone. The gifted are those born with the power to create miracles. Some people can make electricity or fire with their bare hands, and others can regenerate their bodies from lethal damage. But one in particular has used her blessing to destroy the world. A gifted known as the Witch of Ice has coated the planet in a permanent snow, starting an age of despair and famine. In desperation, people set aside their dignity and cling on to life by any means necessary, even if it means dehumanizing the gifted. At first glance, Agni might just look like a young boy from a small village, but he's also their main source of energy. Cannibalism. To avoid starving, Agni's village decided to utilize his gift of regeneration and use him as their main food supply. Now to an outsider, this might look a little strange. So when a military unit comes to the village looking for food and shelter, and instead they find half-eaten human flesh littering every single house, we're leaving. There was no village here. These people aren't human. For 1 year, Agni lies in the snow, his skin melting off and regenerating back, and he feels every second of pain. In 3 years, he finally gets to his feet and takes his first labored steps. In 5, he adapts to the pain and learns to properly walk. In 8, he forms a fist. Yeah, so that probably sounded pretty cool, didn't it? That's what I thought at first. Too bad a quarter of the way through, the author runs out of Adderall and the story nosedives into an ADHD-fueled mess. Fire Punch is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's like an endless tug of war between being an amazing, thought-provoking piece of art and being complete shit at the same time. Like on one hand, you have really cool plot points, like religious fanaticism and humans evolving and leaving the planet, but on the other,
Black anal, meaning black asshole.
Now, I was willing to deal with the bullshit at first. It was kind of funny, but then it slowed down and I actually started getting really invested in the story. It felt like the author was finally taking shit seriously. I was hooked. Little did I know that he was just gearing up for the biggest, worst fuck you to the readers I've ever experienced. When I read this one panel, I clicked off the manga and physically had to take a break and do something else. I felt fucking violated. Fire Punch is stuck in an endless limbo between yellow and red. It's a giant shitpost by someone who's clearly incredibly talented, and it pissed me off so much. Fuck this manga. The human race is under attack. Aliens called mimics have invaded our planet and started rapidly wiping us out. In response to the impending end of humanity, the world bands together and creates the United Defense Force, a special military unit trained to do combat in robot suits whose only purpose is to take a stand against the mimics. KG's just a regular dude who's been recruited to the force. They probably promised him like free college or something. And tomorrow's his first actual battle, but he isn't taking it well whatsoever. whatsoever. As anxiety eats away at his mental, he sits and thinks to himself, I'm not a hero. Who the fuck do I have to impress? I just need to get myself home. I'll come back alive no matter what. Luckily, on the day of the battle, he gets assigned a pretty simple job. Just stay back and pick off any mimics that the main squad misses. Sounds easy, right? But as he lays there nervously waiting for the longest day of his life to be over, strangely, Keiji wakes up in the morning and his day plays out exactly like before. Wake up, train, lunch,
Death.
and he slowly starts piecing together what's going on. But first, he's gotta make sure. Yup, he's stuck in a time loop. What I loved about this manga is the complete shift in Keiji's character as soon as he realizes that he has the freedom to make mistakes. He throws all sense of self-preservation out the window and jumps headfirst into danger just to get a little bit of knowledge that he can use for his next cycle. The manga's incredibly strong plot actually gives the main character a solid reason for getting ridiculously overpowered really fast, and as the reader, you start trying to figure out the mystery of the time loop alongside Keiji. Why was he specifically chosen to be the person stuck in the loop? Why does he have a headache that only gets worse every time he wakes up? Why do the mimics seem to get smarter and more organized each time he dies? As these questions swim around in his head, hey you, yeah you, how many loops does this make? It's green. It's so good, in fact, that America wanted to take a stab at adapting it, and against all odds, the movie was actually pretty solid from what I remember. You'll know if you're gonna like it just from the first chapter. And it being the second shortest of the 5 manga, at a total of only 17 chapters, there's really no reason not to give it a try. All of the problems in Eiji's life stem from one fact. He's the son of a serial killer. His father was like a disease on Japan, specifically targeting college-age girls, abducting them, and then meticulously torturing them while forcefully keeping them alive. But eventually, he got sloppy. And as the police closed in on him, he set himself on fire. Death by self-immolation. He'd remove himself from the world before facing any repercussions, leaving a lot of families without a person to direct their grief at, so it all went to the next person in line. His son. Eiji would grow up as a black sheep, singled out and bullied as if he was the killer himself, but eventually he'd escape childhood and grow up to be your typical virgin college freshman. Now surrounded by people he considers friends, Eiji's interests shifted from survival and acceptance to getting shit-faced every night and plotting on how to get his dick wet. He finally gets to live a normal life. That is, until one day he wakes up with someone he doesn't recognize laying next to him. Now, in this situation, if you're a woman, there's a good chance that the thing next to you is Bill Cosby. But when you're a dude and the person in your bed's a cute girl claiming that you asked her out a day ago, and some real fuck shit's going on. As Eiji tries to figure out what happened, he realizes that he can't remember the last 3 days at all, and his problems start piling up. Suddenly, now he's involved in gang politics. He finds pieces of a missing girl hidden in his room, and a bunch of money he's never seen before. Just what the fuck happened in those 72 hours? So by complete coincidence, the last manga I read completely shit on the other 4. This was a whole experience. It was just plot twist after plot twist after plot twist, and they were all hitting. The art sold the whole story. It seamlessly switched back and forth between some of the most beautiful panels I've ever seen to actual nightmare fuel. Now, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention that the artist has an incredible talent at drawing attractive women. It's a good thing that you only need one hand to draw, because I could tell that homie was having a little too much fun with some of these panels. It's just a shame that most of the girls end up in body bags. This is the best manga I've ever read, which isn't really saying much because I've only read the ones in this video and Uzumaki, but that video flopped, so we don't talk about it. If you'd asked me a month ago how I felt about reading manga, I would have told you that it's only the first step in eventually humping body pillows and getting anime tattoos. Now, I still mostly feel the same way, but I kinda get it. I need y'all's help with my next video though. Drop some recommendations in the comments for stuff I should read. I'll put up a community post with more info if you're interested. It's not limited to manga, it can be literally anything except Fire Punch.